the SM Media Podcast Network. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the 80 right here on SM Media as we look at all things west of Scotland. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. We've got a delightful guest for the first episode of 2025. It is a pleasure to welcome the manager of Troon, Jimmy Kirkwood.
Hi Scott, thanks for having me on your programme and Happy New Year to you.
Yep, same to yourself. I'm looking forward to this, Jimmy. It was very much kind of one person I was kind of eager to get on for the start of the kind of new year. We're kind of at the halfway stage of the season, and Jimmy, I'll be honest, and don't take this the wrong way at all. I don't think many people would have Troon as high as they are. What's it been down to?
Yeah, I think to be honest, we probably feel a little bit surprised ourselves in terms of where we set our stock out for the season at the beginning. But it's been down to hard work primarily, and obviously we've got a new coaching setup, and the guys have been working really hard on the training ground preparing for games, and that's been a real kicker for us. But primarily been down to hard work and really sticking at it, and games being hard to beat, and that's where we've had a bit of joy.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to kind of bring up as well. And obviously, like people will know like how much I kind of think of Dean as well. And I think well, obviously you'll be the same as me, as you'll be wishing him all the best. But I think a lot of people were surprised when he kind of announced he was moving on for Troon. But I remember speaking to one of your new coaching staff round about the kind of the summer. I think it was during pre-season, and he'd said obviously what the setup was going to be, and I was interested to see how it was going to go. And I've been so impressed with like, bringing in Andy Bell, obviously, know Johnny really well,
Yeah.
know obviously Matty and Craig. Such a good coaching setup. Like, what was it for yourself that was impressed you about them and bringing those guys in to kind of fill the void that Dean had left?
He's been around not just at football but away from football as well for a long time, and he's been a real stalwart at the club and had his testimonial as deservedly so. And then when he's came into the coaching staff, he brings Dean sees a lot of things in games that you just wouldn't see, and so his knowledge of football and his presence and obviously just general being around the club, it was a big void to fill for sure. But he's wanting to have a go at managing on his own, and that's the best thing to do is to step out from any shadow and just go for it, and that's what he's done. So hopefully it works well for him down at Girvan as his first main role. But in terms of the coaching staff, I mean, from my perspective, Scott, I look at the league now, and what you've got is, like myself, I mean, I worked under Jim Geddes, 17 years ago, 2 years with him at Whitlets, and then under John Redmond-Tier. And although I'm, only in my late 40s, I wouldn't say the exact number if you don't mind. But I very much learnt from guys and brought that through into our style of football. There's guys like Martin Fellows, Big Gordon at Clydebank, who are educating themselves, and their approach to the game is methodical, and I think what I looked at in the summer was, well, fine, I can go in there and get them motivated and things and give that aspect. But what Johnny and Andy and things do, and Craig Bingo, I mean, they bring that sort of SFA professionalism, the coaching level, the preparation. I mean, what I love about the guys is win, lose or draw on a Saturday at 5 o'clock. We're talking about the following week's game and how we're going to prepare for that. So that's the level to which these guys are working, and I think that makes a real difference to how we approach games week in, week out. And I think there is an aspect of still at this level that just working hard and getting the sleeves rolled up works, but there's also an aspect of where the game is changing, and it's very much more the preparation at training, preparation pre-match is really, really important in how you get through games.
And that's obviously a big thing as well, like, in terms of the kind of squad that's been built over the kind of summer as well. Like a lot of the guys that
Yeah,
are kind of getting the numbers, I like obviously bringing back Sam Jamieson, who I think's been a massive player this season. Same with likes of Kyle Gilroy, Leighton Dunlop. Like the squad, you would look at that squad and think that's an old fashioned Troon squad, but I think a lot of the players are a lot better now. Like, what would you put that down to as well? Like the improvement in the squad.
improving the squad. I mean, what we've done different from previous years, Scott, is our squad is actually bigger in depth now than it's been for a good number of years. I wouldn't go so far to say as individual players are better than what we've had, but I take the last time we went to Clydebank. I mean, we had 11 players and we had 5 under-20s on the bench. We've not had that at all this season. We've got a much stronger squad. And, in terms of the goal returns that we're seeing from Leighton and Sam and Kyle and Dean, what they're doing is I always ask them in the games to just go and be a threat. Don't be passive in the game. Just go and be a threat in the game at all times. And that's the difference. Maybe just that little bit more fire in the belly in the forward areas this season. That's why we're getting the goals.
And I want to just kind of touch on a few kind of results this season that really kind of caught my eye and made me think. Obviously, Troon are obviously in a potential to kind of challenge at the top of the table. At the second game of the season, obviously coming off a bad defeat opening day against Pollock at home, to go to St Cadoc's in the second game, who people have kind of said as well that could be kind of title contenders, to go there and win 2-1. Thought was very, very impressive. Would that be the kind of big kind of starting point for you this season?
Yeah, it absolutely was. I mean, the Pollock game, we again talking about that sort of preparation aspect. By 5 o'clock on the Saturday, we'd sort of really taken the view that the players had been out and they played with a bit of fear. They played within themselves, maybe not really knowing what to expect of the league this year, what we're demanding of them. Had it quite settled into their minds. On the Monday, we just realised you don't be afraid to play anybody. You listen to what you're asked to do on the Mondays and Wednesdays. You take them into the match preparation. You can go and beat anybody you face. And I thought against St Cadoc's that day they done that, and they were excellent that day. To be fair, a lot of good football played, and you're playing against a team that does the same. So it was actually a very enjoyable game to be part of. But it was a catalyst for sure to show us what we can achieve.
And kind of nothing says kind of putting yourself in the mix at the top of the table than beating the defending champions, beating Bede 4-1 at home as well. And we obviously mentioned 3 of the 4 goal scorers like Callum Veach as well, getting in the score sheet that day. That must have felt like a big statement one.
Yeah, I mean, Bede came down here, I think, and had the mindset that they were just going to come down here and then really sort of try and, I don't know, very physical, brought a real physical aspect to the game, both on and off the pitch, by the way. That's another story. But on that day, I think our guys really stood up to that test, and that's, again, part of their education. If you look at our team, I know Mark Morris and Sparky went to East Kilbride there, but Sparky's been with us since he left St Mirren. You've got like Big Logan Smith, Jack Sherry, Gal, Sam Jamieson, Kyle, Dean Fulton came through our under-19s. I mean, these boys, they were young players a few years ago, but they're not now. They're all in their mid-20s, and they can stand up to that test, whereas maybe a couple of years ago they wouldn't have stood up to that physical test, but they can do that now. And they've definitely got the appetite for it. So that was a big, as you say, to beat defending champions and on your home turf is always good as well, because you don't like to be beaten at home. So it was another great result, yeah.
And then obviously kind of recent weeks as well, like beating Auchinleck 1-0 at home, and then just before Christmas, Largs, who have probably been similar to yourself, maybe like kind of surprised people how well they've started. Like to win 1-0 away there as well at Largs before Christmas. That's a massive, massive win to kind of, is at the kind of halfway stage at the moment to put yourself in a good position and bring that kind of festive feel good factor that to kind of set yourselves up for the remainder of the season.
Well, one of the guys told us on the day that was the first time Largs had been beaten at home in 2024, which I think speaks volumes. And we don't. I'm not surprised at where Largs are. Again, I think they're always well organised. They're drilled really well. They're fit. They're strong. They've got real quality in areas with Will Sewell, for example, and the boy Folds in the centre mid area. I mean, they've got some high quality players in their squad. So that is actually my favourite result of the season so far, to be honest, because it's such a difficult place to go and win, and the conditions were challenging. So for us, knowing how good Largs are and to go and get that victory, that is definitely my favourite win of the season to date.
Yeah, no, and as you say, obviously puts us in a really good position in the league. Like one thing as well, when we kind of get into this when we talk about more about the Premier Division, but there's no easy games anymore. It's such a competitive league, and is that kind of something that when you were talking about kind of squad depth, you know, kind of every week, you're not going to play the same game every week. Is that something you felt with kind of building the squad that you would maybe need to bring in a different type of player?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and the league is, in terms of I know maybe we'll touch on the pyramid system and things perhaps later on, but for me, I look at the other leagues. We played two East Prem teams this season. Now, obviously, the better East Prem teams have now moved up into lower league, League Two, League One. But for me, the West Premier is where it's at, and for the last 7 seasons, been in continuous, and for us, it's always been about staying in there, Scott, because it is such a competitive league. It is, the standard's really good. We go away to Pollock in a couple of weeks' time. There's nothing better than being there in that dugout behind the big stand, 100 people, and it's a great standard, the West Premier and the West region generally, of course. But the West Premier, I think, it's a great standard of football, and you do need to have a good broad range of players. And that, for example, we brought in Callum Veach and Darren Baird. Now, we just didn't have that, and I think that's been a real factor, is identifying that as an area that we need to strengthen, but then getting boys in that can really up the tempo in the game, and that's what Beardy and Callum Veach can do.
And obviously, as well, the kind of club are flying in terms of on the field, but off the field as well. Like obviously, but being there as long as you have, the club's progressing. The club are looking to, obviously the floodlights have been done. The club are looking to get into the SFA kind of license as well. Like Troon's a club with a big, it's a part of a big area. Like in terms of yourself, how important is it to now kind of make that next step off the park and kind of get the kind of senior Scottish Cup days and kind of be recognised as a club that is kind of willing to kind of participate in the pyramid system?
Yeah, I mean, I've got mixed feelings on the pyramid system, but I'll explain why just shortly. But in terms of the club setup, we came in here 15 years ago. I mean, the place was in dire straits, to be quite honest about it, and there's been a huge investment in this facility over the last 10 years. Certainly, with the new AstroTurf at the back, which is a great facility for all our youth teams. The floodlights going in, upgraded the clubhouse, upgraded the stand around on all the peripheral areas of the ground. So it's been a great credit to chairman and the rest of the guys for what they do, and I think obviously as you know, it's no mystery. I mean, I'm much more than just manager at Troon, if you know what I mean. I'm quite involved in every aspect of it. So it's something we're proud of, because, as I say, it was the place wasn't in great fettle when we came in, but now it's there, and we have a lot more plans, as you say, to get it ready for moving up the pyramid, if that's what was to happen. So there'll be a programme of works over the course of 2025, and we're also assessing the potential business plan of looking at it becoming 4G as well, much like Cumnock and Ardrossan, which credit to them. You can see how in the old school grounds, the older traditional grounds, the Astro just really lifts the place, and I think at our level of football, it's quite important to. I think if you can get it, you should take it, because facilities are hard to get, and if you've got genuine aspirations of having a youth setup, which we do, having your own facility is gold dust, and you can see that at Dawson on Saturday when I was up there watching the game, and the place looks amazing, and credit to them for the hard work it must have taken to get to that.
And you mentioned something interesting there, is, and I think it is obviously well documented that, yeah, you're the manager, but I think it's not just a case of you're a dugout manager. You're more involved in other aspects of the club. But in terms of yourself, like the way the kind of systems developed as well, like from coming in when it was the kind of junior days, and do you know what I mean? Like the weather we're having just now, it was like that was great weather for us for a junior period. Do you know what I mean? But now
Absolutely.
things have changed. The way football is going here has changed. The levels obviously a bit more kind of publicised, and it's not just a case of like a junior game. It's more kind of looking at a pyramid system, as we'll get into, I'm sure. In
Yeah.
terms of yourself, like what's the kind of buzz like for you now? Is it kind of better than it's ever been, or is it like as a party that kind of wishes it was back to the like? What's your kind of stance at the moment?
So I was on board at Ayr United for 9.5 years as
Yeah.
well, and so I've seen it from both sides of the telescope, and then obviously having played amateur football, and then being involved in the youth stuff as well, which I still am. I actually take our 2010 team here, but I've seen it from all those aspects, and part of me is that when you look at the FA Cup at the weekend there, and it's so exciting, watching Tamworth play Spurs and Salford play Man City, and you see that, Plymouth Argyle. I know it's they're a league team, but you get Liverpool, and you see that romance of the FA Cup down there. But generally, I think probably some of the worst things that have happened is the successes that the non-league clubs have had against league clubs. You see, what's happened to Cowdenbeath, Berwick Rangers, East Stirling, Albion Rovers, and the 42 teams that are there. I think the demise of the teams that go to the Lowland League, and then the successes that the non-league teams have in the cups against these league teams, I think only permeates and promotes them closing ranks continually. And I think until such a time as there was an absolute, open pathway for promotion and relegation, without all these playoffs and rules and barriers, then I personally don't see the real merit in participating in the pyramid system as it stands. However, and that might be controversial because you're asking me what I think of the buzz now compared to the past. I mean, as I say, 17 years I've been in the dugout in the junior football world, and I actually wouldn't mind us being back under the SGFA banner, and particularly the West Region teams, because I think the fans of Pollock and Knock-and-Let they're fans of them because that's who they want to go and watch, and they don't want to do a 4-hour round trip to go and play for. They want to get in their car for half an hour or jump on the train and go and watch, Cumnock versus Glenafton, or Pollock versus Rob Roy, or whoever it happens to be. And but the only caveat I would put with that is I think the SGFA, if we were to make a move like that, they should really be petitioning to be at Tier 5. That would be my sort of, if you were asking me what would be a magic wand moment for our level, that would be it, I think. But that's, again, it's my opinion, and doesn't mean that it's right, but it's definitely the way I would see our level being, the betterment of our level would be through a route like that, as opposed to being at the beck and call of the Lowland League, who, quite frankly, when you look at results, you take out maybe East Kilbride, who are obviously quality outfit, you take them and one or two others out of the equation, these Lowland League teams aren't going to beat West teams, on the best West teams on their day. It just wouldn't happen. So having that as a barrier, it's a bit of a long-winded answer, I know, but that would be my view of the pyramid system. Would be that's how I think it would be the best route for our level and the West Region clubs. But I think there is an appetite of the SGFA to kind of try and pull that together. But whether that ever happens or not, I don't know.
And another kind of thing I was going to touch on was the kind of the cup runs you've had this season. Now, obviously, the junior cups are. I would imagine for yourself, the junior cup would be quite high on the things you would want to have in the trophy room at Portland Park. I would imagine that would be up there.
Oh, listen, Scott. I mean, the last, the furthest I've ever taken Troon in all my time is the quarter final, and we've, the only time it's been the quarter final before that was It was way back in the late 80s or early 90s. So that's the furthest the club's ever been. So I mean, getting to the semi-final would be, one step beyond in terms of achieving what the club's ever done. But I would be an absolute liar if I didn't tell you we want to win the Scottish Cup this year.
Yeah.
That's, and we've got Armadale on Saturday who are flying. We'll touch on them later on, but so nothing's for granted. But I'm sure they'll want to win the Scottish Cup as well. And if you're in it, why wouldn't you? So, but with this squad of players and the way they've performed so far, all we're asking them to do is to maintain their form. We're not asking them to do anything they can't do. So, it's a priority for us, and it's a priority over any other competition that we're in.
Okay, but obviously as well, the kind of West of Scotland Cup is going pretty well. Tough tie coming up against St Cadox. Like, there's some good results in there, like beating St Rochs as well, who are sitting top of the first division in the south, and then obviously Lockheed beating them in penalties. Lockheed are kind of similar as well, kind of going for promotion in the Midlands League. So some big results in there in cups. And how, like, we were having this debate at the weekend. I don't know if you maybe heard it. Like, we were talking about, is the kind of fixture congestion down to the fact there's so many cups, but the romance of the cup is still something that can't be matched at this level.
But absolutely. I mean, I think, listen, if your problem is you've got too many games, it means that you're doing something right.
Yeah.
That's it. In the 2013-14 season, we won the Super First, with a record points total, and we won the Ayrshire Cup, and we were in the final of the West Cup and the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. So we played close to 50 games or something, but it's the best season we've ever had. So I'd be happy to have that complaint again, to be honest with you. But if you can see behind me here, there's actually the strip from when Troon won the West final in 2005. And winning that West Cup is something that's, albeit the 2013-14 season is probably generally the most successful season the club's ever had. But that 2005 team, they hold the mantle just now for winning that cup. So I think for us, it would be, winning the West would be, an amazing achievement. To do that and finish high up the league would definitely cement the place as the best Troon team there's been, and that's where we want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll obviously get your thoughts on the Armadale game later on and kind of targets for the rest of the season. But we're going to take a look at the kind of 5 leagues. And as I say, we've not kind of done a show in a few weeks, but I'll get your thoughts on how you felt the kind of leagues have went so far. The Premier Division obviously will be we'll look at teams that have maybe been impressive, teams that have maybe underperformed. Probably the team at the moment, the only team above Troon in the league is Clydebank. You were meant to play them on Saturday. I don't think it came as a surprise to anybody, but they're obviously laying down the mark at the moment. 10 games they've played, 8 wins, 2 draws, flying at the top of the table. Like, Moff's done such a good job again, and I think he's now beginning to get the credit for just how well he's kind of built his side. And I think at the moment, you mentioned about Troon's kind of squad depth. I think Clydebank are as well balanced a squad as I've seen them in years, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Moff's done a brilliant job at Clydebank, and as I said, I think that what I like about Big Gordon and the likes is, it's not just about putting a team in the park. They're students of the game as well, going away, getting all the UEFA licenses and things, and bringing that to this level of football helps. And as you say, I mean, in terms of squad, it's not just numbers for numbers' sake. I mean, they've got square pegs and square holes at Clydebank all over the pitch. There's nobody out of place, nobody filling a gap. And that's why they're doing, in my opinion, they're doing so well, because, week in, week out, they can consistently, they're putting players where they should be, square pegs, square holes, and they're well organised, well structured and drilled. So, what's not to like?
And obviously, Clydebank are laying down the market at the moment. Massive game coming up for them this weekend, going to Easter Road. And again, like, we were talking about this as well, like, nobody's expecting them to go and beat Hibs, but what occasion it's going to be for the players, for the staff, for everybody associated with the club. Now, below Troon, obviously, there's a few teams kind of knocking on the door. I know you're not going to kind of play your cards too close, but is there a team kind of below Troon at the moment you think could be in a position to kind of challenge? Like, is there a team you would think we need to watch what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, St Cadoc's and Johnson Borough, the two obvious ones for me. I think they'll definitely be in the top five at the end of the season, in my opinion. Hopefully, we are in there with them, but they'll definitely be in there top five, in my opinion. And both again, probably two contrasting. That's coming back to that kind of contrasting style that I talk about. Murdy's probably more in the sort of older style of management, like myself, but then you've got Greg with him there. Again, fully qualified coach and bringing that sort of aspect, and then you've got the St Cadoc's boys again, great squad and very well drilled. So I mean, those two, Clyde Bank, you never know what they could do at Easter Road. I think is a big ask, but you never know. But Johnson Borough and St Cadoc's will definitely be there or thereabouts. And once you get into that run of games, and it always happens in sort of late March through to early May, once you get into that run, anything can happen at that stage of the season, and they'll definitely be there or thereabouts, I'm sure.
And it's going to get to that stage as well where there's going to be games every kind of couple of days, and we're going to kind of
Hmm.
see how it develops. Largs, I think, have been very, very solid, very consistent. Drumchapel, I wouldn't rule out either. I think they've got the squad and the players to really challenge this year. Maybe a transitional season for a few teams that I'm going to mention here. Auchinleck, obviously, I think are going through a big squad change and transition, but I think as well, the Auchinleck, you can't rule them out, but they'll always be very, very hard to beat. Bees, maybe just maybe a bridge too far at this point, do you think?
I think one of the things would be that, and I noticed is, again, you're talking about a very good side, but in the last 2 years, they've had a real talisman striker,
Yeah.
that's led that line, and there's no doubt. I think that's what's affecting them this year, and again, it's just no doubt in my opinion as such. But I think that the lack of that talisman strikers is shown for them, but they're still, still a good side. Can win the league at this stage? Well, I suppose anything can happen, but Auchinleck again. I mean, when we played them down here and when we beat them 1-0, I mean, I think we deserved to win on the day for sure, but still very Talbot-esque in terms of that, discipline, work rate, physicality. But if you look back in the day, when they were flying, when I seen them at their best, you'd maybe Willie Lyle and Latta down the right, you had
Yeah.
Gordon Pope and Milky on the left hand side, Big Gav Collins, Leishman, Pee Wee in the middle, Stevie Wilson, Davy Gormley, G Wilson. They also had that work rate and ethic as well, but they were real high quality players.
Mhm.
And I think for Talbot, that's probably where, if I was, as a take and honest, is that they'll always challenge because of how good, well run they are and well drilled. They'll always challenge. They probably just lack, the quality players they've had in the past at this stage.
Yeah, I do go along with that. I think they're in the middle of a massive transition, and I think
Yeah.
that the qualities there, I mean, the management is deserves so much credit for what they've done, but they're just maybe going through that couple of years where they will just maybe be sitting fifth and sixth, which isn't bad at all. But we know the
Yeah.
standards. It's not Auchinleck, but they're still a really, really good side in their day. One side that
Uh,
I'm going to maybe say has been quite disappointing has maybe been Cumnock.
yeah, I mean, from Cumnock's perspective, obviously they've kind of. I mean, we went toe to toe with one player in particular with them, and and let's not be kidded. I mean, there is money in this league now. You mentioned it earlier on. It's different from back in the junior days where you had all retention rules and stuff like that, and nobody really went over the score. But there is money here, and I mean, we're not isolated from that. I don't subscribe to saying, "Oh, we only pay boys this," when that's not the truth. But Cumnock's got a few big names in there, but again, maybe it's just the thing of going in from scratch and starting that process. And I mean, he knows this level inside and out from managing and playing, and he knows the higher levels as well from his various roles. So Cumnock will be fine this season. He'll build on that, and then you watch them go next season. That's my prediction. I think they'll finish nice and comfortable, and then next season they'll be up there challenging. That's what I can see happening there.
I think the big thing as well is that, and we've seen it over the past couple of years. They went through a few managers, and again, obviously speaking to them as well. Some of them have said, "Oh, we might deserve more time." I think that's valid, but I think they'll stick with Swifty. I think it is. I don't think it's a
Yeah, I
case
think so
of
too.
this is the only season. I think they will look maybe long term. Like again, they brought a lot of players in for a higher level who are maybe just getting acclimatised. I think it's about finding
Exactly.
the right kind of balance and system. I do think they'll be fine. In terms of the kind of bottom of that table, like I think Benbar, I think the boys at Benbar, the Winters, have done really well so far since they've come in. Hurlford are maybe just going through that kind of sticky spell. Gart Cairn have obviously been a bit of a difficult situation with what they've had to endure. But like the bottom of the table, it's you look at it and think, oh, there's maybe only 4 teams that can go down. I don't agree with that. I think all 4 of those teams, if they can get a run going, they could give themselves a decent chance to stay up.
I think Gart Cairn certainly will pick up points. Let's not be kidding. They're really, realistically, they should be sitting fourth just now. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean with the points that they've gained? So they will win games. There's no doubt about that. Again, good manager and good players. They'll win enough games. I fear for if I was being honest, I know Darren really well, and I've always kind of Darren always bounced ideas off him in my younger days. Got his advice on different things. I just think I know his budget is not what it used to be, and um, like everybody else, I mean, he's competing it's a very competitive market for players that can play at this level, and I know he's a bit hamstrung with budget constraints. So that might just be this be the season that hurts him, with a few of the boys getting older as well, and being difficult to replace given the competition, for signing players. Um, that would be my biggest fear for them. But I think Shots and Darvo. I mean, again, you know, big John at Shots and knows the game inside and out, and the boy Mick Oliver. I don't know him. I just know of him, and he's obviously got a great reputation in terms of coaching standards and things. So just they're probably Darvo's probably going to suffer from the point of view of what's happened over the last kind of 12 months, exodus of players, etc. And I find that very hard to rebuild in a short time. Shots might just not have enough in the tank to go and put a run of games together because realistically, as you know, Scott, you're needing 30 points to
yeah.
give yourself half a chance. And we know because we've been down there for so long at that end of the table. So um, it's a. I think you're right. Anything from 10 and below, if you don't put a run of games together, then you'll be in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, that's just that's the way that league works.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move into the minefield that is the first division. As always, it's so hard to call. There's a lot of sides in here. I think Atherley, obviously, 12 games in, 29 points. I know they're sitting in second. I think they're the side. I think if you say right now who's going to go up in that league, I think I would probably say Atherley would be the team I would probably bank on to go up. But it's so tight and amongst them as well. St Roch's, I think, have been really good. Renfrew have completely surprised me. I think Jimmy deserves such a ton of credit there.
Good manager again,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and like
Eh,
Rutherglen, so solid as well.
well, I mean, St Roch's and Arthurlie, I mean, we played them both, and for what it's worth, I think Arthurlie's a better team.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
they're a Premier League team in all but name, in my opinion. Arthurlie, I think the players and the management team and even their committee and things like that. I mean, they're a Premier League team in all but name at this point in time, and I think they're dead set for going up. Whether it's a dead set to win the league, but I think they're dead set for going up. And again, St Roch's, believe it or not, in 17 years, I say that's the first time I've ever been at St
Is
Roch's.
it?
It's the first time. But it was brilliant. I mean, the hospitality shown, the welcome shown, and the whole surroundings, and it's no secret. That's not my side of the city, shall we say? But it was. I thought the ground was excellent. The pitch was in great condition for the time of year. Hospitality and welcome shown, and most importantly, it was a team who wanted to play football. Scott, that's what impressed me about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think as well, I think Ian deserves a lot of credit for the job he's done. Rutherglen have been very, very solid, very, very good at scoring goals. And then you've got, like, we'll bring up Irvine Meadow in a minute, obviously, but
Hmm.
you've got a few sides in there who are kind of knocking in the door and been kind of Premiership sides. And you obviously said about you went to watch Kilburn and Ardrossan at the
Yep.
weekend. Kilwinning are doing very well, I think. Peters Hill, I think, are knocking in the door. Maybole have been really, really good. There's a lot of sides in there just beginning to kind of turn it up, and I think because this league is so tight, you can't call it.
Yeah, it's we've been in it twice, and the first season is we won it. Went toe to toe with B for the whole season, and we get out it straight away, and then we got relegated, and we came back up. But it was a bit of fate, to be honest, because that's when they were increasing the size of the Premier League from 12 to 16.
Yeah.
So we won it, and we got promoted on a playoff, but we got straight back up. So we've only been in it twice in the whole time. But every season you look at it and you're just glad you're not in it, because it is a tough league. And I mean, Kilburn and Ardrossan at the weekend, I mean, not a lot separated the two sides apart from a very good goal from the young winger. Is it Connolly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not a lot separated them, but again, it was two teams that had very accomplished footballers, and their teams there was no hammer throwers. It was two very decent sides. So I think again, I think in this league you're probably looking at like seventh and eighth down the way to get relegated, and then probably seventh up to get promoted. It's that tight.
Yeah, I think it's so hard to call it. This league doesn't really kind of make its mind up until the first week in May. Like, I think it is
Yeah, I
still,
agree.
it's so
I
hard.
think that's right.
And like looking at the kind of games that are coming up as well, Renfrew, Rob Roy. Rob Roy have, I think, are a side that will maybe kind of look to get on a run. Like Vale of Clyde have done pretty well. Maybole have been very impressed with. Thornleywood obviously go through the managerial change, but they're in a good position. There's been a managerial change, obviously. We got the news on Saturday. We kind of knew it was coming. I'd heard a rumour going in on Saturday. I was asked like 10 minutes before what will we talk about Irvine Meadow, and I didn't want to be too confident, but
Yeah,
I'd heard it was pretty much done. Jamie McKim is taking over, obviously back in the game after leaving Johnson Borough. Jimmy, obviously, there's rumours going about. We're not going to get into them, but the rumour has obviously been for the past couple of years at Irvine Meadow is the manager getting the kind of the reins as such. I know Jamie pretty well. I don't know if you do as well. I don't imagine Jamie's going in there with the assumption that he's going to get his team picked for him. I think Jamie's going in there knowing this is I'll live and die on this hill kind of thing.
yeah, and I would think that if Irvine Meadow tries to micromanage that situation, Jamie's not going to be around for very long. I wouldn't think.
100%. 100%.
And where Irvine Meadow might have just struck gold is that, if you look at what he done with Johnson Borough, very very little budget as well, compared to what they're working with now, taking them all the way like he did, and he's again. I think when you look at what he did at Johnson Borough, I always think that you can judge a manager by his signings, and he signed really well.
Mm-hmm.
And Irvine Meadow, they've got a decent squad as it stands, and not there's a lot of decent players in there. But one thing's for sure is if there's anybody going to be sniffing around it, and I'm sure Jamie will be the first to pick up a few that will just strengthen them. And I think Irvine Meadow, with him on board, will definitely climb that table quickly.
Yeah. Like the one thing that was going about when I first heard, obviously, I will say this about Ben Carson as well. He's obviously a legend at Irvine Meadow, and he will have a good future in the game. It's maybe just not been the right circumstances, right? And that happens. But I think Ben will probably get another job. Maybe if he goes back to youth level or wants to try it again. I hope he hasn't been affected by it. But like when obviously the job come up, people were saying Jamie's in for it, and I was like, I'm not necessarily sure that'll work out based on what you were hearing. But the one thing about Jamie is, and you mentioned there, and people say, oh, Jamie got a massive budget at Johnson Borough as well. His budget when he went in was next to nothing, as you say. And he done so well to get them to the position where somebody wanted to put a bit of money into that. That was all probably down to Jamie, in my opinion. The majority of it.
It's
So he put in a lot of work in there.
Yeah, it was clearly a massive role in making it an attractive proposition for somebody to come along and take them to the next stage, and that all happens on the pitch as well as off. So if you're not doing it on the pitch, nobody's interested, and he definitely took them to that level. And as you mentioned with Ben, I've known Ben, going back years, and when he's been playing for even way back, he was thinking start Irvine Vicks, and Ben's a great guy. He's football daft, and I think Irvine Meadows a tough one. You hear a lot about behind the scenes interference and things, and we've got guys who played there, guys who coached there, within our group, and I think it's always been that way. And listen, if they want to get and they want to bring a kind of young progressive manager in to take them forward, they're going to have to change. If that is the case, obviously it's a bit of hearsay, but if that is the case, they'll need to change their ways to let him do his job, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. But we wish, obviously, Jamie all the best at Arvid Meadow. Let's move
Absolutely.
into the second division. Maybe like one of the sides that I've been most impressed with this season, considering that their opening day, was Neilston. Neilston lost 6-1 at Larkhall in the opening game, and they've won 11 of the last 12 since then. And they're now 2 points clear at the top of the second division. And maybe not to the level Arvid Meadow and Co-winning, but they're a side who should be higher than they are. And I think that the form they're in, I think they're flying at the moment, and I think they're one of the sides that I can say been very, very confident they'll probably go up.
Yeah, I mean they got relegated last year, is that right? So I mean they've obviously that'll be a sore one to take, and but again, you look at the start to the season, it's pretty incredible track record. Winning 12 games and losing two. I mean, you know that's a sign of a good team. I've not seen them this year, so I don't know. I can't comment on much about how they played or anything, but their record's good, and I think off to that start, that's definite promotion material right there, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're absolutely flying. Two other sides as well. Ayrshire sides that have had really good starts. Muirkirk, obviously, very, very impressive under Ross. Whitlets are flying as well at the moment. They won the only game at the weekend. Lanark had a comeback, but Whitlets obviously went into the promotion places and went above Lanark in goal difference with a 3-2 win. And that league, like you're looking at it and going, like Larkhall have obviously got games in hand, but it looks like the top five, unless kind of one of the pack below them could go on a monstrous run. It looks as if it's between the top five for the three places at the moment.
Yeah, again, you say it's tight. I mean, it just shows you the importance of taking each game as it comes with for Lanark, because obviously there's a difference of being on level points or being six ahead. That's so important. I mean, I think with Muirkirk, I mean, again, I've not seen the creation of that. Under up to young flow, are going to reward that we've been in and continue great teams playing young players.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move into the kind of other side of the table. Another managerial change that was a bit surprising at the time. Obviously, St Anthony's manager John Fallon has went to Bellshill. There's only a point between them in the league, but Bellshill obviously he's clearly looked at it and thought there may be a better opportunity there. It's one of those that I'm quite surprised by, but when you look at it, no, really.
I mean, the only I can think of is maybe Bellshill's got a better budget or a new investor or
I would
something that makes
imagine
it
so.
an appeal.
Yeah.
But other than that, as you say, it's. But again, I don't know too much about Bellshill from in the recent past, so it's hard to comment.
Let's move into the third division. We've got Thorn obviously sitting at the top of that table with 10 wins with 14 games. Greenock absolutely flying at the moment as well. They're sitting in second. They're probably in one of the best runs in the kind of leagues at the moment.
Yeah.
They have won, I think they won the last four in the league, maybe five in the league. They're flying. James Marks has obviously signed for Kilburnley. I think that was made permanent today, so that's a big kind of statement from them. And then looking below that, it's very, very tight in there.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched, obviously, because I've got an interest in it, I've watched a few of the Girvan games, and each game's really tight. And we played Glasgow United in the Cup earlier on. I actually went to penalties. And I thought Glasgow United, obviously Shettleston for the old guard, but I thought they were a really good side, to be fair. And I mean, David Goodwillie, I mean, I know he's a controversial character, but he can play, man. He's like proper footballer, and they were a good young team. They had a really good couple of fullbacks and really a young centre half who's so much energy. It was unbelievable. So again, good teams, but very, very tight, isn't it, from the sort of ninth all the way down?
Yeah, it's very, very tight. And again, that's kind of one that in the first divisions, the kind of two leagues you look at and go, they're very, very well balanced and kind of both sides of the table. And there's maybe a couple of sides that are maybe kind of underperforming. Like I thought Glenville would have been better than what they are. Vale leaving, I'm quite surprised they're in that position. But the Uni's done really well. Luger are in a good position. Like Ardee have really, really impressed. Three are there. Persia have done well. Bailey at Kilsyth. There's just so many kind of sides really impressing there. So that could be another really interesting league. I'm going to say something controversial. There were a few managers in the fourth division that might not like me for this, but I think there's a lot of sides playing for one place because I can't see past Knightswood and Port Glasgow at the top of that table.
No, I mean, no way. We played Port Glasgow just in December there. And I mean, obviously, a couple of ex-Troon players in the team there. We Midge, Chris Miller,
Yeah,
and so, but it was yeah. Again, it's coming back to that St Rocks thing. I mean, they're a proper good side, Scott. I mean, this is not a bunch of boys in the fourth division that are just there, cutting about playing football on a Saturday. I mean, they can actually play. They're really well organised. They're very athletic. They're physical. They're definitely not a fourth division side,
hmm
albeit that's where they're currently placed. But I mean, they've if anybody can in that league can be beating them, I'd be shocked.
yeah. I think Knightswood as well. Like you mentioned, kind of Port Glasgow, some of the players they brought in, but Knightswood, Strain, Miller, very well coached as well. Like they're a
Yeah,
side there. I think obviously them and Clydebank, only two sides not to have been beaten in the whole West, so they're flying
yeah.
as well. And there's good sides in below who are all challenging for that promotion. Easterhouse have been very, very impressive. West Park, Kello, Rossvale, Eglinton. And you've got a couple of teams maybe in below them that are maybe looking to make a bit of a move. East Kilbride, Thistle, Royal Albert, Kaluk, Giffnock. I mean, there's a lot of teams in there. And all it takes in this league, how many times do we say it? Win four games in a row and you could be in there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's the great thing about it, in that division is, I mean, everybody's wanting promoted. You don't want to be in the bottom league for very long, so it keeps it competitive. It keeps everybody, fighting for that. But I think you're right, though. They are fighting for one spot between all of them. So it's who's going to be the most consistent to keep on the tail. With Easterhouse, by the looks of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But we've covered the kind of five leagues. I think we will. I think there'll be more games on than what there has been the past couple of weeks. It looks like
Yeah, it's
the
definitely
weather's
much better.
beginning to turn. It looks as if the weather's beginning to turn. We'll obviously talk about Troon's game first. Obviously, fifth round of the Junior Cup, home to Armadale Thistle. I was actually speaking to Armadale's manager this morning about something else, and they're a very, very good side. They're flying at the top of the second division in the East.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting game, and I imagine not one you'll be taking lightly.
Well, I think they've only lost one game all season so far, so that tells you everything you need to know. And we spoke to the guys at Hurlford about them, and they kind of gave us a fairly kind of detailed rundown of and what to look out for. And I mean, I think the list was long enough to give us concern, put it that way. Um, and I mean, I think as well. I mean, from what we gathered, they've got two coaches sold out to come through, so it's going to be a decent occasion. That's what the Scottish Cup's all about. And like I said, I mean, they'll be in the same position as us, so I don't mind saying it. We're obviously desperate to win because we want to go. We want to go all the way if we can. They'll be in the same position. It'll be hopefully it's a decent sunny day and we get a right ding dong of a Scottish Cup tie here on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. No, obviously you'll be expecting a good crowd. Clydebank taking, I think Clydebank have filled out the stand. I think two
Yeah,
thousand
yeah.
fans. What an achievement! And just again, going to Easter Road, it's what the cup's made for, and we just hope they do. They're so proud.
Listen, you've got boys in there who'll have played there before. Let's
Yeah,
not, let's remember that. And I'm really pleased for like say Davy Simon. I mean, like Davy came into us from Kilmarnock and having dropped out the professional ranks, and he's done really well over the past 5 6 years. And for likes of Davy to go back to the place where he will have played before, and others within his teammates are the same. So things like that are great. And I wish them all the very best for Saturday and hope they enjoy the day. And you never know, they might get a result.
yeah, absolutely. And obviously after that, the cups. But in terms of kind of league, kind of going forward, Jimmy, with some good games coming up. Home to St Cadoc's, away to Pollock, home to Johnson Borough. the games just keep coming thick and fast. But
Yeah.
like, obviously, I think the main target for yourself will be just building in the momentum you're on. That's I can imagine the only thing you'll be kind of wanting to do.
That's right, Scott. I mean, like I said maybe earlier on in the conversation, is that for me now it's about making the boys maintain their form as opposed to trying to do anything. We're not needing to tweak them to change what they're doing. We just need them to maintain it, and that means staying injury free. It means keeping discipline so we don't get silly suspensions. It means staying, the training regime, making sure that it's looking after boys that are maybe got wee niggles here and there. There's the whole aspect of maintaining their form. It sounds like it's a straightforward thing, but it's actually quite a lot of work behind the scenes to do that. And that's where, with the coaching team of Johnny, Bingo, and Perry, and then Andy and Marty overseeing the whole training regime, then I'm pretty confident that they'll be as well prepared as we can be to do that and to maintain that form.
Yeah, well, Jimmy, all I can do now is thank you very much for joining me in the show, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the season. I really appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in, and we'll be back next week for the latest episode of the 80. Thank you very much.